Hello. How you doing? Good to see you. Everything good? Yes. All right.
I don't need to introduce you.
Yes.
Kira.
This is Kira. Hello. This is Kira.
Please.
Right here.
Hello.
She and I worked together for many, many years. You can, if you want to give them a translation, that's fine.
That's all right, I think that's
Yeah, okay. Okay.
This is Alex McGuinness.
Yeah.
He's our technical director for the opera, and he's worked in our studio on different projects for many years now. And so we, since he's here, he may be able to explain some of the technical difficulties or the interesting things that we've managed to create, to work with, to make the whole 4 hours happen in a very smooth way. So we thought it would be good for Alex to be here as well. So we're lucky. So we should sit, do you want to sit in the middle here? Or?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want one of these.
Just sit. Bill, you sit here.
Okay.
Oh, actually, you can sit here. Okay. What? You're catching flies?
No, nothing stupid. Open.
So who opens the show with a question, or maybe you want to talk about the work for the opera?
So, but first of all, how many people have seen the video in the opera?
And the opera?
Did anybody go to the Pré Général? Yeah?
Yes.
Just a few people.
Okay.
So you've seen images, maybe photographs? Anybody? No?
I was in the exhibition in the Gran-Palais.
And you saw the Gran-Palais.
Oh, you saw the Gran-Palais
Did everybody
show.
see the Gran-Palais exhibition?
Yeah. Oh, good.
Okay, so we
Just a
have
small little
a few
exhibition.
things to talk about then.
Yeah.
Will you be staying to see that? Will you be going to the opera, the Tristan opera? Yes?
Perhaps. Some of them have
Some of them,
tickets for Tuesday.
Yeah. And then my big question is, what are you studying? Are you all art school students? Yes.
Okay.
And specializing in media or all different kinds of technology?
Interactive graphic design.
Oh, interactive graphic design.
Also just print
so
graphic design.
mostly graphic designers, but some of them more particularly into multimedia.
I see.
Multimedia as well.
Okay.
Are you two different groups, or just are you from the same school, right?
Yes.
But different departments.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Great. Okay, that's
Sorry,
lovely.
I'm an exception. I'm student in history of art, and I work on the Pietà in contemporary art. So I was interested by in your video Emergency in 2002. So I'm here too.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
So it's
Cool.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So
So what should we talk about?
then we should, yeah. Since
What do you want? What do you want to talk about or say? Or I want to keep this open. You know, I like the way that I work is free. You know, there's no. Yeah, it's just what it is. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a question that you have is stupid. I don't care. I've made a lot of stupid questions in my career, so.
I have one stupid question.
Good. What?
Was it your first experience with opera?
The Tristan? Yes, to actually do it, to actually make it. Yes, it was, and that was. I mean, that was a really incredible experience.
we did a few other music projects. We did a half-hour piece with the music of Edgar Varese. I don't know if you know him. He was a modern composer,
Right.
French modern composer. But he did a beautiful piece called Désert, which is largely a percussion piece. And I think it was maybe the first time that pre-recorded electronic sounds were used together with his compositions. So at one point, first of all, the instruments are very, very different. Many of them are just created just for that piece. And at some point, 2 times in the half hour, the orchestra stops, puts their instruments down, and the pre-recorded sounds come on, and it's a very, very interesting piece. It's been performed here a couple of times. It was in the Châtelet at one point. And another music project we did was with 9 Inch Nails, actually. I don't know if you guys know 9 Inch Nails or if he's passé now, Trent Reznor.
Trent Reznor, no, he's still working.
So in the year 2000, I think it was, we did some visuals for 3 pieces on the tour that he created. It was actually a very nice experience working with him. So then to come from that and to 19th century German opera, romantic opera,
Yeah, it was pretty
was
interesting.
a strange experience for us. And lucky that Alex actually knew the score and some of the music, and he helped to package it together with the music. The way that we worked was Bill had some ideas for pieces before we even were approached. And so these pieces then became kind of the columns that held up the whole thing. I mean, to do 4 hours of video, it's like 2 or 3 motion picture length kind of things in a space of like 6 or 8 months. It was really almost a disaster. But because Bill had all of these ideas ahead of time, we just made those big, very large pieces, and then filled in the rest with not the music but the libretto. And then that's where Alex came in. He actually was able to fit these collection of videos, I suppose, into within the music score. It was an interesting way of working, because people ask me all the time, or ask us all the time, did you work with the music, playing? And I'm thinking, my God, no. Because it could never have happened. It was really just Bill had in mind.
I mean, Wagner already had the floor.
Right.
So Wagner already was there.
Je peux résumer
sure.
Donc d'abord, ils avaient déjà travaillé avec de la musique, en particulier Edgar Varese, donc musicien contemporain, surtout la percussion, on va dire, et puis 9 Inch
Nails. Yeah, I think everybody knows.
Alors, donc ça, c'était très loin de Wagner, évidemment. Et là, la question qui est souvent posée, c'est de savoir si ils ont la musique en tête au moment de créer leur vidéo, et en réalité, il y a eu beaucoup de travail de technique fait pour faire en sorte que les vidéos préexistantes puissent aller avec la musique préexistante. Je pense que je ne trahis pas, I'm not betraying what I want to.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Sounded good.
Maybe this guy up there is betraying something.
Okay. So, questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, hello. That's a good question. Another good one is goodbye, actually.
So, I've been to the exhibition at the Gran-Palais, and it was really great, really inspiring.
Thank you.
But one of the things that bothered me was about the space and the comfort of the space, because there were many people.
Right.
Sometimes I was unable to see it or to observe the entire video. And my question is, how do you apprehend the space and the scenographic space that sometimes seems uncomfortable for the spectator?
Okay, that's a very good question. First of all, generally speaking, I thought when we got the invitation to do something in the Gran-Palais, I thought big in my mind. I thought this is a great opportunity to do something really big. And I don't do things really big just for an effect, because I don't care about that. But at this particular moment, I thought, this is really great. We should really try this. And it was very difficult. and even just the selection of the works was even difficult, to get them to work together, or sometimes not together. So, so we just started working, and it just, you know, became what it is, and that's really the way that I work. Is, and with Kira here. Kira's the director of our studio, and she's really an extraordinary person. She organizes all of the things that we're involved with. We work together very, very closely. And I'm really very happy that there's a male and female connection to the idea of working together. Because that's really what the cosmos gave us, this idea of the male and the female. That's a very powerful, powerful experience. When those two things join, the stars vibrate, and life is created on the planet. Insects do it, birds do it.
Can we get back to
amazing.
the question?
Well, she's the one that always gets me back to the question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a poet, really. I do my work poetically, so yeah, I shouldn't.
When we created the exhibition, we had no idea that on one single day on a weekend, which was just reported to me, that we would have 3,500 people through the exhibition. And so that, we didn't create the exhibition for that. In fact, we've seen it the best way because we've seen it with no people in it whatsoever. And when you see it like that, it works beautifully. But I can understand that the frustration, and I think that's why they try and have timed entry. If it were up to us, we would have less people in each of the timed entry slots.
Right.
When we did an exhibition in Venice, at the Venice Biennale in '95, we only allowed 25, 30 people in at one point. It was a much smaller space, but nonetheless, and we increased it a little bit as we saw that the comfort level of people, so we were in charge. But also, I mean, this is the nature of the Gran-Palais, which I didn't realize. I mean, we were just in the d'Orsay looking at the Van Gogh exhibition, the Artaud, which is unbelievable.
Yeah,
if you haven't been there, you absolutely have to go. But we experienced the same thing, the exact same thing. Hundreds of people in every room, you know, we're just waiting and looking behind people to see the... But I would rather see it like that than not see it at all. So, but I can understand also because the videos they developed sometimes, and you want to spend time with them. And the only thing I can suggest is, and this is for every exhibition that we've done, is that you come and see it again. And see it at a time.
Or you go really early in the morning.
Yeah, early in the morning or something. We were at the d'Orsay in the afternoon yesterday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
What an experience. But it was worth it. So thank you for your comments.
Hey.
So at the beginning, you told us that you never thought about music when you make the picture, but when I saw the pre-general, the images seems to be very synchronized on the music sometimes. It was very great.
Yes.
Is it yours?
Yeah, Alex.
To some extent. I mean, it began with certain ideas in mind. And then once we had the video and once we sort of knew the order that the videos would sort of go in, which was developed along with the libretto, so there was some connection there. But then there's just a lot of me sitting around watching performances and rehearsals and listening to CDs and adjusting things and finding those natural points. And we've been doing this for a long time now, so there's been lots of time to keep. Each time it's a little bit different, and it finds a different composer or different conductors have different rhythms, and so certain videos get adjusted for each particular conductor's tempi, and some work better in some spots and some work better in others. And, it's sort of an evolving process.
And sometimes you are looking for desynchronization. Or
No,
you play with that.
there are about 3 or 4 points, I think, only where
you really need
you
to be
actually be synchronized, I think.
Right.
And
only
otherwise,
3 or 4.
Alex, you should explain how this is performed, because the video is performed also as the conductor is conducting.
Right, so the video is broken up into about 70, maybe 80 different cues that each exist on their own. There's no master version of it. And so during the course of the performance, the stage manager is calling out start cues against the score. And so then we can, like say a cue is this long, we can decide when in the cue to begin the cue. So that gets adjusted as, for different conductors or different singers. And so there'll be a start point, say we start here, and then while the cue is running, we can adjust the speed of the cue. So a lot of times we'll be usually just bringing it down to 90% to make certain parts line up and sort of breathe at a certain rhythm, or 100, 110%, that sort of thing. Sometimes more, but rarely.
But you have to explain that there are 2 machines going at the same time.
So yes, we have two servers,
Yeah.
and so then 2 streams that are feeding out, and so one was playing whatever you're watching on the screen at the time, and then the new cue is called, and then we start the next image on the other machine, and then there's a manual transition at a board, which sometimes is a cut, but oftentimes, especially in the last act, is a very long manual dissolve, so that you're seeing the 2 different images combine at a rate that's specific to the music. And the operator who's doing those dissolves, we've been using almost since the beginning now, knows the music really well and is sort of listening to that and sort of timing and sort of doing a very specific kind of curve with that, so that you see that all sort of adjusting with the tempi.
So basically the whole thing is a living system. It happens every time Tristan is presented. Every time. And you don't know how long or short it's going to be. And except for those moments that Kira said. So this idea of kind of a living system, which is what technology has given us electronically, ultimately that comes from the stars and gets, no, I mean this in reality. We're all, every single one of you right now has star material, has something from the stars in your body right now. Physical things. And so we're all part of that in the cosmos. And we just happen to be compressed in this little room right now.
So Alex, given the fact, each act is about, what, 1 hour and 15 minutes long, right? So what's the differences in different tempi and different conductors of that 1 hour and 15 minutes? Is it like 5 minutes, sometimes slower or faster?
Yeah, so within any one act, different conductors might, I think maybe 8 minutes is sort of the spectrum of how each one of those thirds can go.
Wow.
For one conductor, it would be rare to see more than 3 or 4 minutes difference, and some conductors are far more consistent than others. So with certain conductors, maybe you'd only see maybe a minute variation night to night. So it really depends on who's doing it. And also, the conductor only has so much control over the tempi, because in certain parts, the singer really drives what's happening. So even with the same conductor, if the singers change, then that will completely change a lot of the rhythms through certain parts of the piece.
Is everybody understanding that? Because I know some of you don't really have good, speak English too well. So please, talk in any language you want, except Swahili. I don't really know Swahili that well.
So it's very different to the project that we did with 9 Inch Nails. Trent Reznor was a perfectionist, and he also was in control of every detail. So the whole entire show ran on time code. So you push the button, and because there are so many elements, because they were running, they didn't have, of course they had a stage manager, but this time code actually drove the lights, the cues, everything.
Yeah.
And so we had,
our
videos just went on, boom, just mechanically every performance. So it's a very, very different feel. But then you don't feel that, of course, during Trent Reznor's performances, because he's, so involved. but behind the stage, you know precisely exactly what's going on all the time, and the drumming and everything. But so it's very different to a more lyrical style of conducting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, what have you done with Trent Reznor? Because I've seen some live videos in Opera, I think, with great panels, and they were playing with shadows. Is that what you've done?
We had 3 columns.
Yeah,
We
there's
had
3 columns.
3 columns.
It was
during 3. He only made. There's a DVD that came out, but I don't know if it really shows it too well.
It's out. It's out there somewhere. I don't know.
But so we had say one image stretched over these 3 columns. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
So there were LED
and
panels.
they were separate from each other.
Yeah.
You know.
Across the
it
stage.
shows the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you make
There were-
something during a concert?
Oh yeah, it was all live.
It was all live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
And there were 3 kind of quiet songs in between. The first part of the concert was very loud and whatever, but 3 very quiet songs. That's when we did the video, and then he started back into the intense part. So it's actually worked really nicely. It was very nice.
Yeah, and then he had these panels on the ceiling,
Yeah, they went up.
and they stuck up to the ceiling. For the whole first part of it, that nobody even knew they were up there. And then suddenly this thing happened, and they started to come down like this, just going from flat this way to right here. So then you should see these 3 panels right across, and then I was able to project on all of that stuff, which was really great. Because and again, I think it's getting back to a lot of this idea, and what we're talking about right now is the idea of being present now, being physically there, being, that's what human beings do the best. We do the best because we gather all that we know as much as possible, and we go into it. And I think the most important thing we should all do as artists is to remember that you never really want to get to the end where it's perfect. You never want to reach perfection. Perfection is the flat line on the heart machine. It's death. So you have to come as close as you can to Mr. Death, and you must step back so that someone else who saw what you did can see something in it that the person making it didn't know. I think that is the most important thing for all of us artists, is that you come up as far to the edge to perfection as possible. I learned this from my Zen teacher in Japan many years ago. I mean that. It's real. These people are incredible. And I realized that's how they do it. They come up as close as you can to perfection, and then just on their own, they get to the cliff, so to speak, that they're going to go and reach perfection, and they don't go there. They stop, and they stand back, and then they allow whatever's out in the world, in the cosmos, anything that's existing, or even mistakes are useful. I think your enemies, if you have people that don't like you, they can give you some of the greatest gifts that anybody's ever had. So all of these things gather into you. The idea is not to complete it, because if you complete it, and you're working very hard, and I know that, we all work really hard. Everyone in this room works really, really hard. And I mean that.
Well, maybe not.
And even sometimes you don't even know, right? But then when you get to that point, you have to stop and not go to the furthest level. And then you take that in, and then you move on with something else. Okay? Because the reason what I'm telling you is the thing that's the problem with it is you don't want to get to the point where it's locked. That means I made this. How many times have you seen one of your colleagues say, "I just made a fucking great piece, man." You know? How many times you see that? I've seen that a lot. I used to do that too sometimes. And then you realize, wait a second, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm like the hero? No. So you get as close as you can to that edge, and then you leave a little space in there. You leave a little bit of emptiness, so something else could happen that you didn't create. Because if you don't do it that way, then it's just ego. It's all ego.
I just noticed the repetition of water element in your works, and I was wondering what does this mean, because there is water as a physical element, as space.
Water as physical event, did you say?
Yeah.
Element.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a space and a symbol. So, what does it mean for you?
Can you repeat that again?
Different words.
What is the water
The use
element
of water.
What does the element of water
mean for you?
It means
in your work?
it means death. It means life. It means baptism, the creation of new life. It means sorrow, because that's where the tears come from. When you cry, they come right out here.
Chagrin.
Purification, maybe?
Yeah, and purification, of course, yeah. Yeah.
But we also use water as the space between things, because water really isn't a natural element for people. You can't breathe underwater, and we can't live underwater, but we often use that as a symbol of transition. There's a piece in the Gran-Palais exhibition, the last one. It's called The Dreamers, and it's a portrait of 7 people underwater. And the way it was shot, of course, people have to breathe, but we shot it and edited it at a point where it's just a loop. And so people will never take a breath and they will never open their eyes. And it's a very unnatural situation, so if we as a viewer are there for a while, we start to get very uncomfortable. I do. Very uncomfortable, because you're wanting someone to take a breath, you're wanting to see life, but it's not death, so it's this place in between, which is it's just a transition point or a waiting or some other form of life that we don't really understand very well.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also used it in it's a piece called Nantes Triptych, and I don't know if anybody has seen photographs of it. It's I think it's in that book that you have. And on one panel, it's a very large piece we did in Nantes in '92, a long time ago. One panel has a baby being born, and on the other panel it's Bill's mother before she died. So she's a week, before she died.
I don't think it's in here.
And then, yeah, it is in there actually. And in between, yeah, there it is, right there. You have your hand on it.
I've seen
yeah.
Saint-Eustache.
Saint-Eustache,
I've
yes.
seen it
Exactly.
in New York and
Yeah.
Saint-Eustache.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it was here in Nantes, and it was being shown. Where was it being shown in Paris?
Yes, in
Before-
Saint-Eustache,
Saint-Eustache.
Cathedral Saint-Eustache. You make this
This triptych.
this
Mhm.
triptych.
I know we did in New York. I can't remember. I know we showed the greeting in Saint-Eustache. Maybe we showed this one too. But so in the middle, however, between birth and death, there is a figure underwater. And also, he never comes up out of the water, he never takes a breath. So he's either jumping into the water, or he's just floating. So it's also very an interesting kind of that's the space between birth and death in a way, the transition
Yeah,
period.
I had the
transition time.
privilege of being in that place one time when I was young. So my family were on vacation, on holiday, and it's a beautiful place in the mountains, a lake, and I was there with my cousin and his family, and we were playing, and we got onto, do you know those things, these big platforms that they put out in the summertime? You know, and then you can jump off and swim. So my cousin and I were doing that, and so he got up on the deck and dove in and swam away. And no one told my uncle that I didn't know how to swim. So I saw my cousin jump in, and then I jumped in, and I had my little tube, and it went right between me and straight to the bottom. And I went right to the ground, landed on the bottom, and I opened my eyes and I saw the most beautiful place I'd ever seen in my life. I saw a place with shafts of light coming down from the top like that, extremely beautiful. There were these plants on the ground going like this, waving in the currents. I saw fish, and I sat on the bottom, and I said to myself, okay, this must be the next thing. And I sat down, and I just was waiting to see what the next thing was. And luckily, my uncle realized I wasn't there. He saw the bubbles, and then he dove in and pulled me out. And when he touched me, I was pushing him away because I wanted to stay in that place. So one of the things that we all need, all of us, is you need to find your special place that's just for you, not for your friends, not for your family, but just for you. The only one that you know. It's your secret, special place. And you have to find that space as you go through life, because it keeps coming back in different ways. But that's very, very important. You know, and again, that's another thing that you must not complete. It's the same kind of idea.
Tout le monde a compris tout ce qui s'est dit, et sur les symboliques d'abord, et sur l'expérience.
Yeah.
So you love snorkeling, don't you?
Yeah. I like
You know,
anything to do with water.
There's another
Anything
piece
to
in
do
that
with
book that was also shown in Paris. This was at Salpêtrière, the piece called The Messenger, and it's also underwater. And we actually used a person who was a free diver. He can hold his breath for 3.5 minutes underwater. So he starts off on the bottom of this very, it was an Olympic swimming pool, so it was very deep. And so he comes up very gradually, and as he comes up, you see that it's a man, because at first it's just like a piece of light, like a blob of light. Comes up gradually, comes to the surface, and exhales. And then you can see that and he's naked, completely naked. And so he exhales, he gathers his breath slowly, and then inhales, and then goes back down again on his back, like this. It's really beautiful. So he cycles through that about 5 times. So clearly this is again reference to the cycle of birth and death, rebirth and rebirth. So, and you can put this piece anywhere. We did it first for Durham Cathedral up in the northeastern part of England, which is a 1,000-year-old Norman cathedral. It's so beautiful. And so it resonated with that space, but then we had it here also in the Salpêtrière space. But you can show it anywhere and it will take on the form and feeling of the space that you put it in. You know, it has nothing to do with religion or with a particular kind of belief system or anything like that. It's just a man rising up out of the water and going back down again. But everyone can feel something different when they see this piece. So water is used a lot. It's a very symbolic kind of a thing, and I think everybody understands something about water.
It's such a medium and an aestheticism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Contrary to your work for the opera, in the exposition there is no music in your videos, but there is footage. And why do you prefer this for the sound of your videos?
Which
sound
there is
effects.
no
Les bruitages, c'est ce que tu as dit. Sound effects.
So,
Which are not music. Yes, there is a kind of white noise sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's what you want to say.
Yeah. Well, that's the. There is a kind of white noise.
Sometimes it's
sometimes
it's ambient noise. Ambient.
Yeah,
That's what you probably meant to say.
Can I just show you what ambient noise is? Okay.
yes.
Nobody speaks. Shh. Quiet. We're going to stay like this for 1 minute. From now.
Thank you.
But if you elevate that, if you make it stronger, it becomes what you're talking about. Except for the clock, of course.
Yeah.
And also,
But
if
the
you,
sound is the there's sounds from on other planets. There's sounds everywhere.
but especially if you slow it down, it then takes on a different character as well, a different tone.
And you should try that. Also, you students. You need to find a place, you know, that you can be in alone. You need that. Because especially when you're young, when you have wonderful professors and teachers that can teach you, you still have to find a place that maybe they don't even know. Okay? And probably a place that even your parents don't know. And that's gonna be yours. You know, it's that special place for the rest of your life, like I mentioned before. So that idea of separation and connection was given to people way, way back at the beginning of the Paleolithic age and probably earlier. And that is, they always had, at some point, they had ceremonies, and they would send a person out alone into the wilderness for 3 days with nothing. They left them out there. It was one of the ways they could tell if they were really strong or weak. But then there's a lot of other things there too. But this idea of leaving the flock, leaving the space, leaving the place where people gather. and going out somewhere in the wilderness, or like what we do very much, and I loved doing that when I first did it, going out into this empty space, because we have a lot of really beautiful spaces in California, in the desert, in the middle of the desert. So when you go to those places in the desert, they're like nothing else that you know from back home. So that's when emptiness appears, like what we just did together. And that's when you find out where you are in this large world of the cosmos. And so that's a very important thing that's always been in existence well before, you know, even human beings came onto the planet. So you should try it sometimes. This can really give you a lot of interesting thoughts.
What questions?
I like the clock.
What?
Yes? Who's?
What about the religious iconography reference in your works?
The religious iconography?
Yeah, sometimes, or maybe it's
Yeah.
just an obsession, but I see
No,
a
it's
Christian
that's fine.
There aren't so many of those works, really.
Yeah.
Just a few pieces.
I was, you know, I mean, my mother took me to church when I was young. And the thing I liked about it was the lights and the candles. I thought it was really beautiful. And so there are ways also to experience that without the religion part of it, you know, coming into something that's giving you some new thoughts about how the world is, you know. And people who are very religious will get drawn to certain kinds of religion. But I mean, there's so many different kinds of religion in human existence. There's just an enormous amount of religions, some of whom we don't even really connect, or really even know sometimes. And then, of course, also in America, we have the Native Americans who are amazing, and they're all about the earth. They're an earth culture. So all of these ways that human beings exist seem to be all connected in their own way. And I think that's another thing about our planet. We've now, for the first time, because of technology and because of the fact that we have now pretty much mapped the entire planet that we live on, down to its central core and out up into outer space. So we kind of know where we are now. And it's getting harder and harder to find secrets. So instead of looking up and out, what artists have to do and what you young people need to do is to not look outward to find who you are, where you are, but to look inward, you know? Because it's not really about technology. I don't really believe in technology. Technology is great. It helps you do stuff. But in the end, it's not about the technology. Kira and I went to visit the Dalai Lama in 2005, and it was an amazing experience. We were with him for 40 minutes. It was in the winter time. And I was telling him, you know, Your Holiness, I was really concerned, I've been concerned about technology, you know. because it's distracting people. They're all, you know, just watching TV, and they're being told by other people what to say and who they are. So you have to be very, very careful of that. And he said it's not about the technology. He said it's never about the technology. He said it's about the intentions of the user of the technology. I'll never, ever forget that in my whole life. He said, you know, you can take, he said, I can give you nutritious food with this fork, or I can pick up a gun and kill you with this thing. So it's not about the technology at all. It's about the intention of the person using it. Is it positive and good and life-giving, or is it death-giving? That's basically the bottom line. So don't, I just really get really upset. I know I was young at one point, and I was one of the, you know, with a group of people that were just getting video off the ground. It was a really amazing experience. But I mean, that's kind of in a way, you know, what I learned at that point. You know, yeah, the technology's there, you have to know your tools. In the Paleolithic age, they knew their tools, you know? So you know your tools, but then it's not that, it's about your heart. It's what's inside you. Are you gonna kill this guy, or are you gonna do something good? So anyway, yeah.
In this piece,
Yeah.
it's another question about the sound.
Oh, yeah.
You use the sound differently. It's like a shock.
Yeah.
And how do you work with sound now with your new work?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, we've been doing a lot of various things with sound for a long time. So
this was a live piece.
Yeah.
Yes. So when the little drop, it's basically about magnification. So the image is magnified, and then the sound of the drop is magnified,
right.
and nothing is pre-recorded. Did you see it in
New York.
Oh yeah. Oh, you saw it in New York.
This was
Yeah,
here
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Very impressed me.
It's expensive to see anything in New York.
We
you know,
showed
it's
it.
like-
We showed it in Le Frenois,
Yeah.
not a few years ago,
Mhm.
with an exhibition with Thierry Vincel, some of his pieces. So this piece actually is a really interesting piece because there's no it was made in 1976 originally. But you can see this today, and you will never know that it was made in 1976, because, and this is an interesting discussion about technology, because this piece is not, some artists really want to use their original things that they used when they made these pieces many years ago, and it makes it feel old and kind of quaint, funky and stuff, but it's also very interesting that those particular pieces of equipment were used that way. But in the case of this piece, the better the equipment got, the better the idea then was actually exhibited to an audience, because the whole idea is to get as clear an image as possible in a tiny little drop of water. There's a drop of water that comes down, it comes from this little tiny faucet, and
Yeah,
it drops
it's
every...
that big, and it's about
Yeah.
from the top of there all the way down.
It comes about every 45 seconds, something like that. And so it doesn't just drop. It opens up very gradually. It builds and builds and builds and builds. And so, as you come in, there's a light on you as the audience member. There's a camera attached, you know, like right behind the drop. And your reflection actually is in this drop. The reflection's upside down because the drop is a lens, acts like a lens, and lenses are upside down. Your eye lenses are upside down. So when this camera with the macro lens on it, it shows the image as being very huge on the projector. It gets projected. So it's still very live. So you can see yourself upside down, actually dropping in this drop of water, tiny little drop. At the same time, when the drop goes down, there's a drum head on the floor, and underneath there's a microphone. So the whole thing is what do you call it, open circuit piece, you know. There's no pre-recorded, and it's completely live. So of course kids play with
and then it comes down, the drop hits, and then you get this really loud sound.
Yeah.
And there's a screen about as big as from here out to you, you know. And that's, so you're seeing that little drop, you know, magnified and expanded.
So everything's kind of like natural. You know, there's no trick to it or anything like that. It's just a matter of your perception, how you see something. And in this case, the camera and the microphone is helping you see something that normally you wouldn't pay any attention to. So.
Is it okay? I don't know. What time is the performance going on?
Oh, it doesn't start till 6.
Till 6, okay.
So, but the ambient sound is interesting, that sound. It's kind of, I don't know if it's a shock, but sometimes it is. I suppose it's a surprise when you hear it. But you know what it is. It's not like it comes from somewhere else. And other times we used to always record the sound together with the image, and then whatever happened to the image happened to the sound at the same time. So if the video image we were slowing it down, then the sound would get slowed down as well. Bill made a videotape, actually. It's not in the show here, but it's an 11-minute piece called Anthem. And it was a time when everybody was making music videos. You know, why aren't you making a music video? You know. Okay, so Bill said, okay, I'm going to make a music video. So it's in that book too. It's from 1983. So we recorded a bunch of things about California. We had just moved to California, and for us it was the cult of the beautiful body was something that really struck us as being not very nice. And so we used that, and then we intercut with all kinds of very strong images, some of surgery, some of nighttime, very strong. But the sound was, we had a little girl, we put her in a big station where there was a lot of, you know, like ambient sound, a lot of very strong sound.
The train station.
And she was very small, she was young, she was what, 10 years old or something? So we asked her to scream as loud as she possibly could. It was very hard for a little 10-year-old girl to do who's very shy. But anyway, she finally did it, so she screamed many times. So we just had a recording like that, she screamed and screamed. So Bill took that scream, and however he cut the image that we were shooting at the time, the scream slowed down or sped up at the same rate. So if you have a very slow image, the scream is like this, it's really long. And if you have an image that's going by fast, it's like she was really screaming, very, very high. So in that way, he created the soundtrack, he created music, basically, from the screen. And so that became the soundtrack. That was a very controlled way of dealing, and so that was Bill's music video. Very different from a normal sound piece. But, so sometimes we actually have to completely create the sound because there was no way that we could record the sound at the same time. There was too much directing going on, whatever.
Are there any more questions? Okay.
Yeah, just last one, sorry. It's about your film Emergence, I was wondering because you chose Masolino paintings as reference and not the common Michelangelo sculpture.
Oh yeah. Well, he was used already.
Yeah, but what does it mean for you? Because in Masolino it's just like a barrel.
Yeah.
And in yours it's like a fountain of eternal youth.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Well,
yeah.
Just water for you.
Yeah, it's water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this image was just interesting because
you want to hold that up? Maybe some other people would like to see it. Show some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
your work was
It's an
interesting because
Italian artist.
there is three characters in this Pieta: mom, the prostitute, and the Christ, so the son. And in all of the Pieta, it's just two characters. So I was wondering, is a reverse or a verse for you means two female and one?
No.
No.
No. It doesn't need that. Not in that way. It's the idea of refreshing something, of keeping something moving. You know, everyone in this room right now is on a journey, and some of you are near the end of your journey if you're older. Some of you are just starting your journey when you're in school. So, and that's this idea of birth and rebirth constantly circulating itself. And then you can look at them in terms of art theory or however you want to do it. But basically this thing is constantly moving, it's constantly growing, it's constantly, you know, reviving itself. And I think that's who we are. I mean, that's who we are as human beings. And I mean, I love the painters, Italian painters especially, in a lot of ways. Giotto is one of my all-time heroes. And those of you that don't really follow old master painting, you should take a look sometime. Because I didn't want anything to do with the Renaissance when I was young. Why? Because video was just being invented, and I wanted to be there. I was one of the first people to do it. So, and that took me a while. And then I just, you know, didn't really think about it. I didn't want anything to do with it until my mother died, basically. And it changed my life. And then I realized, oh, so where did she go? Where is she? And why did she go? And it was just really kind of a shock to me. And so I had to go through the whole thing, you know, losing my mother and so on. And all of that's going to touch every single one of us in this room. And so that's the life path that we're on. You know, it's doing all these great things. It's doing all these amazing technological stuff we can do. But at the same time, we're human beings too. So that means that, you know, human beings basically, there's three parts to human beings. So two of them are eternal. So one of them is the two eternal ones are birth and death. And that's present right now for all of us right now. That's outside here. There's birth constantly coming, constantly coming, constantly coming from out there, let's say. And then at the same time, way over there, there's death. And that's moving over here. That's over there. I'm a lot younger than you guys are. And I'm going to go ahead of you, we hope.
You mean older?
Yeah, older rather. Yeah. Did I say that?
Yeah, you
see,
actually
there you
said
go.
it.
See?
Yeah.
We really want to stay young.
You actually said it.
It's beautiful, isn't it? I like making mistakes. It's so good. And then, so you have these two reservoirs, you can call it. You got the one
Unborn.
of the unborn. That is not anybody in this room, okay? The unborn are coming after you guys. And then on the other side of that is the dead. Okay? So, on this part, you got the ones who haven't been born, and on that part, you got the people who have died. And so that leaves the third key element in the equation, which is what's happening right in this room right now. Living human beings, walking, breathing, talking. Okay? That's precious. You know? That's really precious. This is such an amazing moment to be here together. Because the dead are gone, and the unborn are yet to come. So that's why we honor the dead. You know. So that's. I'm just trying to sketch this out for you as the larger whole of what we're looking at here, not just about you, who you are, and everything, but about how do I fit into this world that we have. So when you come to the physical world, you start camera left, you walk onto the frame and you go out there, and now you're in public, and then you're going to walk over there and you're going to exit on that side. That's what you're doing. So that's a finite amount of time. You have a finite amount of time. And that's how it, just how it is. Can't really change it. So there's a lot of things you can do. A lot of really amazing things you can do, but it will come to an end one day. Whereas the dead will never end, and the unborn will constantly go. It's quite an interesting thing that somebody out there in the cosmos has set up for us. I think it's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. So, anybody else with any thoughts?
How do you work with actors in your video? Did you choose them especially?
Yeah.
You know them and you sing to one person?
Yeah.
And
I had a really, really difficult time when I was young with actors, because I actually didn't want to use actors. I was using my own body, my own person in my work. I didn't like the idea of Hollywood movies. I never was interested in Hollywood movies. Although I like to go to see them like anybody else does. But when it came down to making my art, I didn't want anything to do with those guys. So so I didn't know what to do. So what I would do is I would just get a video camera and I'd go in a room and I'd push the button and turn it on and shoot whatever I wanted to shoot and then turn it off. And usually nobody else was in the room. Occasionally then I would maybe need some help from some friends, so they would help me by holding some things and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was kind of like just me doing something, and I really needed that connection. And then after the experience with my mother that I shared with you, a lot of things changed. And one of the things that changed was I realized that I needed to be behind the camera. I needed to be behind the camera so I could see really what I was doing to myself. And so I hired this guy who was a really nice guy. I'd met him many times. I said, I'm doing this thing, and could you help me? And actually, he actually looked a little bit like I did at that point. So he was a friend of mine, so I said, can you help me? He said, yeah. So he was the one that became me. Just that we were about the same height, the same size, everything. And so I just gave him little instructions. what to do. And I thought I was really, you know, copping out. I don't know if you know that word in English, but I was really, you know, thinking, oh, you know, this isn't really, I don't think I should do this. I don't think I should start going into Hollywoody kind of things, you know, with my work. I didn't want to just do that, you know. I had to do it my own way. And then finally I just gave in. And I had a friend of mine come over, another person, this was later, and to help me direct. So there was a wonderful woman who I knew, who's just really, really wonderful. And she kind of showed me some kind of ways to do this, to make a movie, a thing, where I don't have to be in front of the camera. And it was a really big experience for me. And that's when I started making the work that I make from the camera side for the first time in my life. And it was hard at the beginning, but then I could understand how it would work. But I did not want to make a narrative. I never really made narratives. I've maybe made a couple of narratives at one point, but I'm just not a narrative kind of person.
Very often we don't use professional actors. We use people that we know or friends. And it depends on what's needed at the time. Let me see, the first piece that we made actually was with actors who were actually acting, was The Greeting, which was the piece shown in Saint Eustache. It's from '96, I think we made it. And it's two women who are standing and talking, and then a third woman comes in. And that's one that's based on Visitation, Pontormo's Visitation. It was just, not based on it, but it was inspired by that. And it's basically a very extended slow motion image of just a chance meeting of a third woman who walks into the frame. But we shot it in 1 minute and 15 seconds, I think it was, and stretched it out to 10 minutes. And we were using a camera, a very special camera that could shoot 300 frames a second. It was a 35mm camera. And this is really interesting because when you shoot 300 frames a second, a lot of things happen in each second that you can slow down. So you see everything. And so, but we needed actors who could repeat the same actions and could do something in 1 minute and 15 seconds that required directing. We called it micro-directing. You know, every second counted. 1 second turned into 10 seconds when you were playing it at such a slow speed. And so then, you know, they needed to be able to have facial control, they needed to be able to show emotions quickly, you know. So if you actually saw the 1.5 minutes, it's like, oh, this is so boring, you know. It's like, big deal, you know. But it is a big deal when you stretch it out. And so then I think Bill realized that, yeah, we really needed someone professionally to do those kinds of things.
You know, Alex is here, and Alex is the one in our studio that works a lot with these kind of things. So maybe you can, you know, chime in here. And
well, sort of like what Carrie was just saying is that a lot of times these pieces require very specific needs out of the performer. So for some of the Tristan pieces, there are acrobats who in Cirque du Soleil experience were brought in, for example, or a lot of times there'll be people who with very specific movement, like they need to be trained movement professionals. So I think in a lot of cases that influences, I mean, that very quickly narrows the range of who could be in it, and then there's sort of a search to sort of find within those parameters what works.
We've actually used stunt people as well to make stunts. In the Tristan opera, you may have seen the image of a big wall of fire and a woman standing in front of it, and she falls. she's a stunt woman. She was literally standing in front of that wall of fire, which was extremely hot. So, you know, we needed a specialist at that point. She had gel on her body. She had special fireproof clothing underneath the costume that she was wearing. And she had no fear about falling face down right into the water like that. So we do specialize. You know, there are a lot of times we need stunt people. Actually, in the exhibition at the Gran-Palais, when you see that wall of water that falls that comes out of the building in the very large piece called "Going Forth by Day," the people coming through the middle down, falling out of the staircase, huge amounts of water going through there all the time. They were all stunt people. We had to use stunt people, and it was very dangerous for them to do this. You know, behind that facade of the building, we had giant pipes that were constantly pumping water through to make it. That's the kind of force you needed, like a waterfall, to come out of there. So we were constantly. It was a really big experience for everybody. So you're right. It's a big range of people from, and yet the piece that, if you've seen the Gran-Palais show with the three women, it's in the last part of the exhibition, in which there are three pieces there that are water pieces. It's a mother and her two daughters. They walk through this wall of water. Those are just friends. And when we were shooting it, you know, we used either actors or friends, people that we knew. And we, especially when they were not actors, we had to make sure that nothing was going to go wrong technically, because there's only one chance that these people can go through, have an emotional experience, and then finish, because you try and do that again and it's absolutely not the same. But interestingly enough, with the actors who did this piece, all of them told us afterwards that they had something prepared, you know, because they were actors, they wanted to show some special emotion as they were going through this wall of water. And every single one of them said as soon as they hit the water, everything left, and they literally had to draw on their own personal experiences as they came through, because it was a very emotional thing to walk through a threshold. It was literally a threshold that we told them that it was going to be between death and life. As they walked through the water, they were going now into a living situation. So that's a pretty strong thing for anybody to think about. Imagine you making that transition, and so you can't imagine it. So it becomes a pure emotion in the end.
You want to talk about the water, how we did the water thing? For which piece?
Oh, Alex, were you there on that shoot? Ocean Without a Shore.
I wasn't. I mean, I know how it was done, but I wasn't there for it.
Yeah.
So the piece Three Women is from a larger series of works that were done with different individuals and groups of people going through this sort of thin, invisible wall of water, this threshold. And there was a lot of time spent machining a very specific rim for this water to sort of fall off, so that it was in fact invisible, at least until a certain height. And then there were two cameras. One that was a favorite camera of Bill's from the 70s. That's an old security camera. It's a tube camera, so it has a very different kind of quality to it than one of today's digital cameras. But then that was sort of aligned with a HD camera of its day. And so both cameras were capturing sort of this image of this person walking sort of through this barrier into the sort of the closer zone. And then in post, there was a very careful digital transition from the old grainy camera, which is capturing the person when they're on the far side of the threshold. And then when they step forward, it transitions to the newer digital camera. That's the high definition sort of real image, and then back again as they recede. and it's sort of amazing to think of how much effort went into lining all of that up, both in the moment and then in post, and making that work so seamlessly. I think you guys were in there for, I don't even want to mention how long working on those.
The end result of it was that you could take these two different cameras, as Alex said, and you just put them together, and you really are seeing someone coming towards you in a very, very mysterious place, and the figures aren't really clear. And then once they go through that water, they go from black and white to full color, pristine color. And that was the step that they were taking from, you know, death, from birth to death. And then that is, so that they come out of the black and white image, and they transition across this water wall, and then they're full color. But of course they can't stay on that side, because nobody's going to stay on that side, because we talked about that already. You can't stay there. So then you've got to go back eventually. So you're just looking at people, you know, you're on their side, watching them transition from birth to death or death to birth, whichever way you're going. And it was really effective. It was really an amazing thing, because it made, again, talking about technology, you know, yeah, there's all that technological stuff, but this was really an effort to try to make something that, what would it really look like if someone could really do that? Someone could reach across to a human being who's not yet born and pull them out. And then take an older person who is about to die and push them back the other way, you know. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question about the piece of art, The Astonished People. It was at the Gran-Palais, and you were talking about the fact of emotions when you are shooting, and I'm really interested about this video, because the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, it's nice, it's really interesting, because in the art effects there is this impression that it feels like a Renaissance work of art, like the smoke effect and everything. But was it made with only emotions by people, or were there actors trying to perform something about the astonished face?
Yeah, they weren't trying to. Well, I guess they were, sort of, in a way, to. What he's talking about is a piece called Quintet of the Astonished. There are 5 people, and they're set up almost like they're in a. They almost look like they're going to get their picture taken. You know, it looks completely like those photographs that you get, you know,
in the studio.
You know, they're perfectly made and everything. So there's people there, and they're all placed very beautifully, and they have certain kind of colors on them. So it's all like what you would expect in a kind of a high-end photography studio. And then as that progresses, these people who are feeling good because they're going to have their picture taken, and then it's all really, really slowed down. Like it just, you know, I forget what we shot it at, but at the end it was a really stretched out experience. So you just see these people, and you think you're looking at a photo shoot, and it's not moving, and then you realize it's moving. These 5 people, they're each moving. Then you realize, okay, they're moving, and then you start to see who they are, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these emotions. Because at that time, as I said, you know, I lost my mother, and it was really, really difficult, and just the whole idea of that, having that experience was enough to just, you know, to just become emotional, really. I was so emotional at that point. And so that was, you just watch these people and they just start moving, and all of a sudden you start to see them change, and the smiles go away, and all of a sudden you see sorrow, you see joy, you see anger, you see fear, all of those things. I studied those things. It was really interesting doing that, to see how that works. You know, the people who really know about what the emotions are. You know, these scientists are just phenomenal. You know, with these being able to really look at emotions like in a deep, deep, deep way. And I learned a lot from that. It affected my whole art after that. It was really amazing because I had a couple of really good people helping me with all of those kind of ideas. So it was really a pretty incredible moment. And at the very end, you have these people who had the nice look on, and then at the very end, they were just slumped over. And, you know, they were just really, you know, they just really just fell apart, kind of at the end.
But it is kind of when you realize that, again, it's kind of like that other piece I was talking about, the greeting. We, in fact, use the same film and the same technique. That no matter how much you stretch out the emotion, it's always there. You know, you don't even think about that. You know, you think, oh well, things go by so quickly in our lives that it's here 1 minute and gone the next. But you keep stretching and stretching and stretching and stretching, and it's like you still see the emotion building and building and building and building. And then you can see all the details of, you know, the lines on the faces, how the faces change, and then you can really slow down things to look at them like very, very carefully. We did this piece, which is called, actually it was shown here, it's called Passage, and it was in a show that Rencontre did and Tristan de Wagner called Passage de l'image, and it was many years ago. And actually the piece is in the collection of the Pompidou, but I don't think they ever show it. It's too bad because it's really interesting. It's Bill, we shot and collected Bill did a lot of very fast shooting of a 4-year-old birthday party with little kids. And have you seen in the Bobo?
Oh, you saw that in Bobo.
But that's a long time ago, so it's like in 90 something. Anyway, so he ended up with a 23-minute edit. So that's not a very long time, like 23 minutes of fast cameras, like looking, you know, zooming in and out of the birthday cake, the children's faces, the horse that was outside, everything. And so to play it back, it actually plays back, I don't even know how we would play it back.
It was 7 hours and 10 minutes.
Yes, it's over 7 hours, the opening time of the museum, right? So what happens is, of course, every frame goes by like this, very slowly. Yes. But to play it back, we actually were using Beta SP tapes. We had a whole edit system we had to purchase for this thing. And we went through a lot of heads actually because it would screw them up. So we actually literally stretched the tape out and played it very slowly,
frame by frame, basically. Live
for this. I think we slowed it down 16 times. I can't remember. It's like an enormous amount. Yeah. But that's a very interesting piece, and we know that Peter Sellers actually sat there at MoMA when we first opened it and saw it for the whole day. And he's the only person I know who actually did that. But talk about stretching the emotions. It's like a gigantic painting, and the painting changes every frame. And so you see slowly things starting to unfold, and it's almost like you're in suspense watching this thing. And the cake comes in slowly, slowly, and the children's faces, they start lining up, and then you can see all the detail, all the colors kind of merge, and it's
I
so.
don't remember the sound. What
The sound is,
The sound was
very, very deep.
Was the sound.
It was the sound.
The sound
slowed
was
down
the sound.
Yes.
sound?
It was the
It was
children's
sync,
sound, but
sync
it was
sound. Yeah.
You know, very, very low.
Yeah.
Because when you stretch
Yeah.
it out so slowly,
Yeah.
the register changes.
Yeah, when the little girl sees her birthday cake, she goes, you can hear. When you see the eyes going.
Well, people don't understand that it's actually the real sound.
So that would be like 20 minutes just to go. It was really incredible. It was amazing.
So you can stretch time for as long. And another
Yeah.
4 that will make
Time is infinite.
Yeah.
You can, yeah.
So in terms of the emotions, you know, Bill shot 3 people, and they were all going through 3 or 4 different emotions. And this piece, you look at it, you literally think it's a photograph. And you know how you can't see the hour hand moving on the clock? You can only see it when you look back. Like you look at this clock, you don't see the hands move. You can't. It's the same thing. You have to turn away. The only time you can actually see it is when someone blinks. Very slowly they blink.
The blinks.
But otherwise it's the slowest. It's 80 minutes long. So that piece is very slow too. But again, it's like this, it's just a study of different, what seem to be very normal kinds of things that we all experience. But it's just the perception is different. It's like blowing up the little water drop, you know, you expand it, and all of a sudden it becomes something else. You know, and all of a sudden you can see the essence of it. I think that's what it is. In order to see the essence of something, you have to look at it differently. Whether you slow it down, speed it up, or just look at it differently, you'll be able to see something else.
Someone have posted on Facebook a song by Justin Bieber, and people thought it was a composition of Gavin Biard.
That's
cool.
amazing.
That's fantastic.
800 times slowed down.
Yeah, really? That's perfect.
That's very cool.
That's wonderful.
Gavin Biard est un compositeur.
Yeah, interesting. That's very interesting.
Do we have time for one more
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
Maybe one more question, if anyone
Yeah.
has it, or...
Yeah.
You said it's not about technology, but are you influenced or inspired by new technologies in video, like visual effects or 3D?
Well, for me personally, right now, I'm not as interested in that. Because I have incredible people, Alex, and we have a lot of really amazing people in our studio. So I've kind of moved away a little bit from that. And, you know, at this stage in my life, I'm really I'm beginning to see the end. You know, just a little bit, I see it out there. So I personally really am focused on the future right now in my work and what I'm doing.
In terms of ideas.
Yeah, in terms of ideas, yeah.
But in the past, very much so. Because every time something new came along, it was, oh my God, now we can do this. But even when Laserdiscs, I know you don't remember Laserdiscs, but Laserdiscs were before CDs, before DVDs, big album kind of things. It was so exciting because you could control them with a computer. So that was like really, really amazing. All of a sudden, you know, you could play back things in a different way. And so we started to do things like, you know, random circuits, and, you know, how, you know, you could stop the image, you know, randomly whenever you wanted to, or start it up again. So that was really exciting. And a really exciting thing also was the invention of flat screens. You know, before that we were stuck with monitors or projectors. And we use projections, everybody does still very much so, because you can change the shape of the image. Now with these plasma screens or the you know 16:9 ratio, that's all you get. You know, you can't change it. With a projector, you can change it to whatever size you want, or whatever aspect ratio. But flat screens and LCD screens, that you know, your computer screen. We've used all of those in all of the works. There's a computer screen in the exhibition, Catherine's room, with the 5 panels. Has, you know, nobody was using those for video exhibitions. And we stripped them down. We took the computer case off and then put it into a whole different system, and it became a beautiful, creamy colored, lovely quality video that we hadn't seen before. So yeah, technology is really important, but it's not, it's just the tool. It's the tool.
So how about down on this end? Do people have anything you want to talk about?
I think we have to finish soon.
Yeah, we have to finish pretty
we
soon.
Really do.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Any last question?
Okay.
No.
No?
I think maybe we're
Okay.
finished. Thank you.
So again,
everybody,
the
for
most important thing to do is just to keep moving. Keeping moving is the most important thing to do. You know, sometimes you move and you fall, and that's wonderful. You know, because then you have to pick yourself up and clean it off, and then go that way. Obviously that didn't work. You know? So don't be afraid to do anything. You can do anything. And I really mean this. Right now you're in a special place because you're young, and you have these incredible teachers here who help you.
I confirm.
But you know, this is the life field. You're in the life field now, and it has a kind of, you know, it's like a river. It's flowing. And remember that you can at any time when you finish your school and you're out in the world yourself, just getting going, just remember that you take the wheels in the car and you go where you want to go, and if you don't like it, take the wheel and go that way, or this way, or that way, or this way. You have that in your power to do. You don't need permission from your teacher. You need permission from a higher source, which is this one, in the heart. That's all you need. You don't like school? Fuck it. You know? Just go get it. Yeah. Just, well, you did it too. We all did it. You know? You just take the thing and go somewhere else. You know? Until you find what you're looking for. It's all about a journey. And mistakes are just as important as you know, the things that you're making. You know, it's the same. You know, I learned so much from fucking something up. You know, and then now the world's really changing a lot, and so now this everything is mingling right now. This is what's happening right now. Everything is being ingested by, it's like a big amoeba, and it's taking everything we know, and it's now scrambling it and moving it. And you are, the young people today are right at the beginning of this incredible thing that's going on right now. So you have really a great opportunity right now. Because something new is opening up right now. And I can feel it. I can smell it.
Thank you.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
From my school to thank you.
Oh, that's really
Thanks
kind.
you all.
Thank you.
For your interview. And we have two special books we have edited.
Okay.
And it is how to say in English, I don't know the word. It's in French, it's a traité, something about colors. It's a book from our own collection, and we have re-edited it. It was just edited in Latin. And it's translated in French, and we have all signed. But you miss mine, and it could be very more expensive later.
J'ai pas signé non plus.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Je crois que j'ai pas signé non plus. J'ai pas signé. Je savais pas que les professeurs.